This is video 2.1. In this video our focus is on solving real life problems like you see in the big race. A couple of things still stand. As long as the growth is consistent, constant we call it, we're still going to have rules that are like y equals mx plus b. M is still your slope, or a couple of other ways we can talk about it are growth. It also can be thought of as the speed that you're traveling at. Okay, so these are the important things to know for solving these real life problems. So let's take a look at, and then b of course is still your y-intercept. And we can still think of it as a starting value, but we want to be careful. It's where we start at for y at time 0 if we're talking about big race type problems. So let's take a look at some of these next questions here. So first example, Sophie's in the big race. She travels 2 meters every 3 seconds, but starts 3 seconds late because she tipped over on her tricycle. What is the rule for Sophie's line? So right away the question's asking about the rule, but it might be helpful to make a graph of this in order to help us understand what it is that they're asking us to do. So let's take a look at this graph and try to make a sketch of what Sophie's doing here. So she travels 2 meters every 3 seconds, but starts 3 seconds late. So you see that keyword starts there. We want to find out where she starts on the graph, and we see that it's at 3 seconds late. So pay close attention to the graph and how it's set up. We always put our time on the x-axis and our distance or our dependent variable on the y-axis. So we have to find 3 seconds late. So that's going to be on the x-axis, and 3 seconds is right here. That point represents that at 3 seconds she hadn't gone anywhere yet. She was still at the starting line because the x-axis is the starting line. Okay. The next piece of information we're going to use is that she travels 2 meters every 3 seconds. So we're going to go 2 meters every 3 seconds from this point. So that means that I'm going to go up 2 meters every 3 seconds. So 2 meters, 3 seconds. And that's my next point. And I'm going to do that again to find more points. 2 meters in 3 seconds. And I can keep doing this, 2 meters every 3 seconds, to create a nice sketch of my graph. Okay, now the question asked for the rule. So I need to find the rule for this particular line. So remember the rule, y equals mx plus b. Now that I have my graph, I can see my my slope of 2/3. Rise of 2, run of 3. So my rule is y equals 2/3 x plus b. But now I need to find b. Remember, b is often known as the starting value, or the y-intercept. Now it's tempting to put 3 in for b because that's where Sophie starts after all, but it has to be a starting value on the y-axis. So we want to know if she went back to 0 seconds and started walking at 0 seconds, how would she get to 3 seconds and be at the starting line? What we really want to do is use our graph to work backwards, and we'll talk about how to use the rule as well. But we could use our graph and we could go backwards by going down 2 and backwards 3 using the slope. Now I can see where the y-intercept is. But it's really important you find the y-intercept. The y-intercept here is -2. So my rule is y equals 2/3 x plus -2. Or -2. Now here's another way we can see that that's the rule. One last thing to use the rule. Some of you would rather use the rule than use the graph. Remember, just like we talked about in the previous video, we can use the points that we know. We know that this was a point on our graph. In fact, we know all of these points are points on our graph. Let's go back to the original point that they gave us. That at 3 seconds, she was at the starting line, so 3, 0. If I plug in 3 for my x, I need to get a value of 0 for y. So I'm going to plug in that point now, plug in 3, 0 in for x and y, and figure out what b has to be to make this rule work. So 0 equals, well, 2/3 times 3 using my fraction skills, this is going to be 2 plus b, and that means b is going to be negative 2, just like we saw on the graph. On the graph we noticed that it's negative 2, and now we can see it by using our understanding of how to write rules. So you can still use a single point and the slope that you found by using the rule and solving for b. So same process applies as you learned in the last class. So that's the first question. Now we have a rule, and now the good news is our rule will help us solve the next question. When will she finish the 20-meter race? So I can go back to my graph, but I look at my graph and I see that it only is reaching to 10 meters. I need to go all the way up to 20, so my graph is not nearly big enough. Now 20 meters means that my y will be 20. It's really important to know what x and y stand for this reason, because we want y to be 20. We want the meters to be 20, and y represents the meters. So 20 is going to go in for y, and you're going to solve for x. Okay, so we're using our rule to help us solve for a missing value. We're trying to find the time that she hits the 20-meter mark. So we'll solve for x by adding 2 to both sides. And we get 22 equals 2/3 x. And typically at this point we divide. If this was just a regular number, we could change it to a decimal. We would divide by 2/3. But if you didn't know this, this is a nice way to solve these that you'll want to learn so you can use it next year, is to multiply by the reciprocal. So remember, reciprocals are when you take a fraction and flip it upside down. So if we multiply by the reciprocal, that actually cancels everything and leaves you just with x. But if I do it on the left-hand side, I have to do it on the right. 3/2 is a much nicer decimal, so I can multiply 22 by 1.5, and I'm going to get 33. So apparently at 33 seconds, be sure to answer the question, don't just give a number. At 33 seconds, she will be finishing the race at 20 meters. So if I plugged 33 into my rule, I would get 20 meters to finish the race. So hopefully you saw how the graph can help you write the rule and how you can use the rule to solve these problems. But keep in mind what x and y represent. Let's take a look at the second example. The second example gives us 2 rules for Mike and Miranda. And so for Mike and Miranda, we have the 2 rules, y equals 2x minus 8, and Miranda's negative y equals 0.5x plus 8. And the question is, when will Mike catch up to Miranda? So once again, we could go back to the graphs, and we could graph it, and we could see on the graph when Mike catches up to Miranda. But a better strategy is to use the rules. So remember, we want to know when Mike has the same distance as Miranda. When are they equal? So we're going to use our equal values method and ask the question, when are these 2 rules the same? And we're going to solve for x by adding 8 and getting. Okay, so we added 8 to both sides. We get 0.5x plus 16 equals 2x. Pause the video now and try solving the rest of the equation on your own, and check back if you want to see this when you're ready to see the solution. At this point, we probably want to subtract 1.5 from both sides, 0.5x, and we get 1.5x equals 16. Dividing both sides by 1.5, we get x equals 10.6, repeating. Now remember, that means that it's 10.6 seconds. So you could explain that it's not at the exact second, but you definitely want to explain that it's not 10 or 11. It's 10.6 seconds. So there's example 2. Let's take a look at one more example here, or let's take a look at the problems that you're going to solve on your own. So these are ones you should try on your own. Remember, you can always use the graph and make a graph to help you answer the questions, but the more you can use the rule, the faster and more efficiently you'll solve some of these problems. And in fact, some of the times the graphs will not show the answer to the question. So be sure to try these problems. Ask your teacher if you have questions. Restart the video if you want to see some hints and some solutions. So a couple of reminder hints. When you're writing a rule, it's always y equals mx plus b. So your goal is to find the slope or the growth and the y-intercept. That's what m and b stand for. And definitely use that graph to help you. And don't forget, for questions like B, where they're asking you for a specific number, ask yourself, what is 20 meters? Is that x or is that the y value? And then use your rules to help you solve that problem. Check in with your teacher if you need more hints and help on some of these problems.